if you're looking to make a lot of money, if you're looking to build something new and original, you have to prepare for failure. A lot of people prepare for success and they prepare for things to go well. But, to your point on, sometimes your other question I hear you ask a lot is, why do companies fail within the first 2 years? It's because they didn't plan for failure. And that applies to the founders as well. You have to think personally, what does failure or delayed success look like? If you're not thinking about that, you're not going to be prepared for it. And that's going to limit your runway.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Become a millionaire in the tech space is easy. We have over 500 millionaires that have attended to this podcast. 1 out of 5 are tech millionaires, tech entrepreneurs, and our listeners might think that it's easy to become a millionaire in a tech business. And so, can you share with us, James, the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a tech entrepreneur? Because we a really high rate of tech businesses literally fail, and we only hear in this podcast the winners. And people might think that it's easy. So, tell us your perspective. You have been in the MedTech space, so what it's gonna take, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So, yeah, I would strongly push back on the idea that it's easy to make $1 million in tech. What I would say is it's easy to succeed or fail fast in tech because it scales so quickly. So when you have an idea, you have a theory that you want to put out there to the market, you can build it, you can grow it, you can nurture it, but within weeks, months, not really a year generally, you're going to know whether or not what your theory of what the market wanted and what people wanted and your theory of how this tool should work, whether it worked or not. It used to be that you had to build factories and have ships deliver things and then, have people assemble things and then from there have people go out and do door-to-door sales and think back to how business was done in an analog world. All of that happens at the speed of light now. We're all connected via fiber optics. So the beautiful thing is you can succeed quickly, but you can also fail quickly. And that's also a beautiful thing because who wants to spend extra time on their failures? So, there's lessons from every failure, of course, but if you can get there faster, that's even better. So if you're in the tech space, one of the sayings that I really like is if you're not mortally embarrassed by your first release, you waited too long. So you have to get your baby out of the womb. You have to build it to just a minimum viable concept, that MVP that you hear about all the time. If you build it to that point and you say, okay, if I gave this to somebody else, could they figure out what to do with it? If the answer is yes, then release it. Now, there's a couple ways to protect your reputation when you do that. So the pushback I hear from a lot of people is, well, if we release something that's not perfect, we're going to get bad reviews. Well, fine, release it under a different brand. Some brand that's a throwaway. So let's say it does become a dumpster fire and there's 1-star reviews and your worst nightmares all come true. Well, that wasn't the brand you wanted to build anyways. That was just something that was out there for testing purposes. So move on and recreate. That's why we allow people to create brands. It's because we know that people are going to fail. And so we need to create different terms, different works of art terms of art around the current version of the organization, the thing you're building, that doesn't attach you to the past thing. Because otherwise nobody would succeed because everybody would be weighed down by their 50 failures that it took them to get that one success. But yeah, I don't think it's easy to make $1 million in tech. I think it's the opposite. I think it's incredibly hard, but you can move so quickly, you can fail so quickly that you can learn faster if you're resilient and you're willing to keep going.
So why do you think that we have more volume like in this podcast? Like 1 out of 5 of the millionaires that show up, they're tech entrepreneurs, and the other 1 out of 5 are real estate or property investors. So why do you think that those ones, the statistics is reflecting in this podcast, those ones that showing up more than the rest, clearly is the statistics show that is one of the most powerful vehicles to generate wealth, right? So when you see, so
It's breaking up on my end. Can you hear me okay?
uh, okay, yeah. So the so do you think that tech is a good vehicle to to build wealth? Like, for example, here, out of the 500 millionaires, 1 out of 5 are property, uh, and the other 1 out of 5 are tech entrepreneurs, which is these two vehicles are uh, are showing up more constantly to this classified press, meaning that statistically there's more of it. So how is the vehicle?
Yeah, I understand the question. So what you're saying is, look, 1 out of 5 people that I interview, they're in tech or they're in real estate. Um, I would challenge a couple things. One is, what population are you speaking to? Where are you pulling these guests from? Because that's going to have a huge impact on the people that end up, up here on the stage. Obviously, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You run a successful podcast. You know how difficult it is to go out and find diverse audiences and people with the kind of backgrounds that you're looking for. The other thing I would say is, we talked a moment ago about speed. So, what is the speed at which you can succeed or fail? Well, the two industries you just mentioned, tech and real estate, those are places where you can succeed or fail very quickly. And so it's not that it's easier to make money in those spaces. It's that same cycle. If I were in the textile industry, it might take me 10 years to figure out whether my business is going to be a success or not. In the tech space, especially in the real estate space with flipping and whatnot, within 6 months if what you're doing is going to be successful or not. So if you have to have 5 or 6 failures to succeed, I'd rather have those 5 or 6 failures occur in a space that's really quick in terms of getting you to the end point there. So it makes sense to me that, the younger entrepreneurs that you speak to, obviously they've had less time to fail their 6, 7, 8 times before succeeding. So they've gone into industries, and the reason that they're sitting in front of you is because they've been in industries where that cycle is very short and allows them to try multiple times, multiple hands at the table.
Yeah, I think that it's challenging to become uh, yeah, exactly. And when you get it running property, you lose a lot of money, so you get the lesson really quickly. And and tech again, it's easy to scale, but again, you can fail fast. And now let's talk about minimum viable product, because this is a concept that have changed. Because before, if you want to create a minimum viable product, you will need to hire very expensive software developers, and it took a lot of money to create that MVP. Where today, with the use of AI, you can create a minimum viable product very easy. And um, I think that city tech is more about marketing, sales, and getting the product in front of the people, that MVP, and get a feedback quickly. How much they're gonna pay for, and how they want to look like. But it seems that these huge high tech software as a service kind of models now, it's coming to a more competitive space, because even people without programming knowledge, they can get an MVP just using AI. So do you think that the barrier to entry has lowered in terms of how more tech businesses successful?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. So, number one, excuse me, forgive me, I guess I need some more coffee. The challenge that the current you always have two sets of challenges. Is it too difficult to get in and fight and succeed or fail? Or is it too easy to get in and fight and succeed or fail? Why did Warren Buffett buy See's Candy? He bought it because there's a moat around it. And that moat is the reputation of See's Candy in people's mind. It's this feeling of, I remember when I was a kid and I had that. Well, if you're Bob's Sugar Crack Stick Company, you're not going to have that nostalgia factor. See's Candy is going to beat you every time because somebody's going to go, I remember See's Candy. I had that as a kid. You have to look at what the moats are. And sometimes the moats aren't obvious to keep the competitors out. So if it's super easy to get into the space, the moat matters even more. And you have to get creative. So I'll give you an example. I was talking to one of my good friends who's an unbelievable marketer, has generated probably close to $1 billion in revenue at this point in terms of the projects he's worked on, at least in the hundreds of millions. And he and I were talking about like the challenge of marketing in this world, because there's vibe coding, to your point. Anybody can build anything. There's this unbelievable ability to go out and just dream something, speak it into existence. It costs you probably less than $2,000 or $3,000 to go from an idea with no coding experience to vibe coding a concept. My word of caution, though, to people who do that is realize that what you're building using AI, which means it's the same thing everybody else is building off of. So Lovable, as an example, I love lovable.dev. That's an amazing tool that we use every day in our company. We don't use it to build a final product, though. What we do, you know that old Office Space movie, the joke is, you can't have the customers talk to the engineers. I have people skills. You can't have them talk to each other. Well, the reality is, Lovable for us allows us to sit down with a customer and talk through what they're looking for, and then build out that thing in real time, and then show them a front end that replicates what we talked about in the conversation, sometimes by the end of the conversation before the call's even over, and say, is this what you're talking about? And the beauty of that is we can get the front end right. We can get the paint on the house correct. We can get the right shutters on. We can get the right front door put in. We can make the house look like the customer wants it to look from the curb in terms of their app, their technology, their solution. Then we hand it off to the dev team, and they go in and build everything behind the scenes to make sense. Now, Lovable is an amazing tool that will create a basic cloud, a basic database, but it's going to rely on all these tools and all these things. Number one, it's the same way everybody else is putting together their app by extension. So keep that in mind. You're using the same developer everybody else is, but also the choices made in putting all those things together. There's a million choices that go into building an infrastructure, a backend to support a complex front end app. All of those things, every time data is transferred, every time a database is created, there's a cost. There's a server that has to spin up. Who's paying for that? Well, if you're using Lovable's solutions, you're going to pay a retail rate to all these other providers that do all that for you. Whereas our company, Overlaying Venture Partners, which is what I spend my day working on these days, is we focus on how do we take the knowledge that we have around the million ways to connect all these dots in a way that's incredibly efficient, so that if it does succeed.
Follow us for more interviews with the world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.